It's the president's vanity project.
His multi-billion-dollar vanity project called a wall is nothing more than a distraction from the fact that he actually hasn't focused on working people in America. He contrived a national crisis around his big distraction.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
We can't afford 4 more years of this.
I really do believe that we're witnessing the end of the corporate media as we know it. And I'm going to show you some things in this video that are absolutely going to blow your mind. Things that are going to expose these people for exactly what they are and what they become. And one of the main things they become is detached. I mean, they really have lost touch with what is and isn't important to the American public. The media, the liberal corporate media, has become so desperate to push a narrative that now they're interviewing kids. They're interviewing 10-year-olds, and they're still not getting the answers that they're fishing for, right? I'm going to show you all that. But first, we got to look at what is really breaking the machine. Propping up and protecting Kamala Harris and all the fraud and all the fabrication that takes to make that happen is going to absolutely destroy the media. And I don't think there's any better example of that than the border. Kamala Harris, we all know, she might as well be personally responsible for our border crisis. We know that she's on the record saying that crossing the border shouldn't be a crime, saying that illegals deserve free health care, and that basically no matter who is here or how they got here, she believes they deserve some sort of pathway to citizenship. We know that she believes this stuff. No one contests this, right? But now she's a tough-talking border hawk who's going to fix all the immigration problems that Donald Trump, of course, created. And she told us all this in her first real less than 30-minute trip to the border. And I'm telling you, man, when the media pretends like this is true, like this is reality, it risks destroying itself completely.
Just come from visiting the border and the port of entry in Douglas. I spoke with dedicated agents from Border Patrol and Customs officers who every day see the overflow of commercial traffic through the port. These men and women who work there and at other places along our southern border help keep our nation secure. And they need more resources to do their jobs, which is why we have and are in the process of investing $500 million to modernize and expand the port of entry here in Douglas. And why last December I helped raise the rate of overtime pay for border agents, and also why I strongly supported the comprehensive border security bill. Written last year, as you know, by a bipartisan group of senators, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Congress. That bill would have hired 1,500 more border agents and officers. It would have paid for 100 inspection machines to detect fentanyl that is killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. It would have allowed us to more quickly and effectively remove those who come here illegally, and it would have increased the number of immigration judges and asylum officers. It was the strongest border security bill we have seen in decades. It was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, and it should be in effect today, producing results in real time right now for our country. But Donald Trump tanked it. He picked up the phone and called some friends in Congress and said, stop the bill. Because, you see, he prefers to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And the American people deserve a president who cares more about border security than playing political games and their personal political future.
The problem is that's exactly what she's doing. And that is literally all that she's doing. And everybody knows it. Literally everyone knows it. No one, not even people with multiple Kamala signs in their front yard believe that this woman is some kind of border hawk. And it's funny, man. every time she tells this story, and you have to call it a story because that's exactly what it is. None of it is true. But every time she tells this story, she always says the same exact thing. She says this groundbreaking, never before seen magical border bill that would have fixed everything, finally. She says it was written by one of the most conservative members of the United States Congress. She never names the guy, right? Because if she did, if she said it was written by Senator James Lankford, even hardcore conservative political nerds would say, who the hell is James Lankford, right? No one knows who this guy is. And I'm not saying he's not conservative, but he's not special. He was just the particular chosen pet Republican for this political stunt, which is exactly what it is. And it's clear that that's what it is. I mean, they really expect you to believe that 1,500 more agents and 100 more drug-sniffing machines would fix the mess that they created. I mean, they expect you to just not know how to do math, apparently. They expect you to believe that 7% increase in manpower is somehow going to affect the most deadly land migration route in all of human history. I mean, it's insane. It just doesn't work. It's not believable by anyone serious, and it's exactly who these people are. But it's not just the border. I mean, foreign policy obviously is another major weakness of Kamala Harris and basically all Democrats as a whole, basically our whole entire federal government, if we're being honest. But, you know, Kamala Harris was proudly the last person in the room when we decided to surrender in Afghanistan. And a lot of people don't know this, but she was also the highest ranking person that we sent to Eastern Europe to try to stop the Russian invasion. And if she didn't look weak then, she definitely looks weak now, especially when you compare her to President Trump. I mean, just look at the difference between her and Donald Trump when it comes to Ukrainian money laundering.
Well, President Zelensky, it is good to see you again. This is our 7th visit together, and welcome back to Washington, D.C. As I have made clear on our 6 previous meetings and throughout Putin's brutal aggression and war against Ukraine, my support for the people of Ukraine is unwavering. I've been proud to stand with Ukraine. I will continue to stand with Ukraine, and I will work to ensure Ukraine prevails in this war. To be safe, secure, and prosperous, the United States must continue to fulfill our long-standing role of global leadership. We must stand with our allies and our partners. We must defend our democratic values, and the American people know well the meaning of freedom, of independence, and the importance of rule of law. These ideals are central to who we are as Americans. And some of the most important moments in our history have come when we stood up to aggressors like Putin, just as we must today.
President Zelensky, can you comment on Eric Adams, Vice President? Did you say that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty prototypical word salad nonsense. I mean, I couldn't even subject you guys to the entire thing. I had to chop it up a little bit, but she said nothing, right? She accomplished even less. I mean, no one on the planet is any clearer on her strategy or even what she desires. No one knows. You know, we know that she wants a ceasefire in the Middle East, right? We don't know why she wants that exactly, but for whatever reason, she wants something different in Eastern Europe. And it sounds like she really doesn't have any interest in real peace. It sounds like what she really wants is just more war. But we don't know because, of course, as usual, she took no questions. I mean, she couldn't even think of taking questions. And just compare that to Donald Trump, who leaves absolutely no question on what it is he believes and what he wants. And I'm going to show you that, guys. But first, if you appreciate this kind of content, guys, make sure to hit the like button. It really, really does go a long way to helping the channel grow and helping us reach more people. And I really do appreciate it.
Of our soldiers, our people, of course, it will bring us closer to the peace. We need just peace. We need just peace. It's so important to have just peace for the people, especially for the families who lost their children. It's a big tragedy.
President Trump, have you changed your thoughts on how this war should end, what you think should be done, or do you still stand by some of the previous statements?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made, and it's got to be fair, and I think that'll happen at the right time. I think it's going to happen. The president wants it to end, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. He wants a fair transaction to take place. And I think, right now I'm campaigning, so right now I don't have much to do with it other than we're doing very well in terms of the campaign. And I've been saying that I believe if I win, we're going to have a very fair and I think actually rather rapid deal. It should stop, and the president wants it to stop, and I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop, and that's a good combination. So we want to have a fair deal for everybody.
What do you envision as fair?
Well, it's too early to say that. I mean, I have my own ideas, and I'm sure the president definitely has his own ideas, but it has to be fair.
This war shouldn't be started, and I think that the problem that Putin killed so many people, and of course we need to do everything to pressure him to stop this war, and he's on our territory. That is the most important to understand. He's on our territory, and how to stop the war, to pressure him as we can, as we can. We have to do it.
And do you think the U.S. is the best?
The U.S. is the leader. U.S. is the leader of support. U.S. is the leader in the world, and of course we value the support of the United States. We're thankful to the United States people of America, and of course we understand that United States can be the leader through any negotiation. You know that we have the peace summit, and we want to organize the second one, and we count on this.
I know you're both in a rush. Last question. Will there be another meeting in the near future between you?
Could very well happen, but I think the president said it the best. This is a war that should have never happened. It should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened. It's a shame, but this is a war that should have never happened, and we'll get it solved. It's a complicated puzzle, very complicated puzzle, but we'll get it solved, and people get on with their lives. Too many people dead. Too many beautiful cities. I've seen those cities. They're so beautiful, and they, I don't know how you can ever rebuild them the way they were. It's not possible.
You have to come, by the way, to see our city.
I will. It's a beautiful country, beautiful weather, beautiful everything. But we have to get this over with. Yeah. But it's a war, and the president agrees. This is a war that should have never happened. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pretty clear differences, right? And really, the main difference, just the difference in approach between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I don't think could be any more wide. Kamala Harris, she doesn't seem to know what she wants, and she definitely doesn't seem to know how she can get it. Just reading from prepared statements. I mean, she's standing there giving a press conference as a presidential candidate with a world leader talking about the largest war since World War II in Europe, and she does it from a freaking teleprompter. And Trump, on the other hand, gives an actual press conference, answers actual questions, and his entire point is, whatever we do, it's got to end. This cannot be allowed to continue. Real people are really dying. Families are getting destroyed. Countries are getting demolished, and it's costing billions and billions and billions of dollars for nothing. And let's not forget, this could turn into a nuclear exchange at any freaking moment. And Trump says, we got to find a way to end it. And Kamala says, we got to defeat Putin no matter what, which sounds great. That sounds like a great 1980s story. But the problem is, no one can tell you what that even looks like. No one knows what defeating Putin looks like or how you do it. It's just words. But, apparently one thing Trump, Kamala, and Zelensky can agree on is that the war should have never, ever happened. And I think most people can agree that if we had a better American leadership, a more strong, a less weak American leadership in the world, it's likely that this wouldn't have happened.
And 2 days before the invasion, Kamala Harris went to Germany and said definitively, for the first time by any U.S. leader, we are moving NATO into Ukraine. And that is something that we all need to understand, that provocation. And I was so proud of President Trump because everybody says that he alienates people all over the world. He doesn't know how to be a diplomat. But he was the epitome of diplomacy, and I urge you to go look at the YouTube. He was kind and civil to President Zelensky, But he was also firm in his resolve. And he said, I've had a nice meeting, but I have not changed my mind. We need a peace, and we need to do it very quickly. And we need to protect U.S. interests, not an interest of a country in which we have no strategic interest and no treaty. And he was polite, he was kind, but he was firm in protecting our country. And that's what Donald Trump will always do.
What a concept. Protect U.S. strategic interests. And what a quote. Bobby Kennedy said it right. Trump was polite, he was kind, but he was firm in protecting our country. And that's all any of us should be focused on, man. I mean, do we see a future in open borders and American weakness? Or is there more of a future in being polite, being kind, but being firm in protecting ourselves? I don't think there's a critically thinking, objectively minded person on the entire planet that can honestly disagree with Kennedy on that point, right? I mean, and that's exactly why the media, the entire machine, has been trying to destroy this guy for over a year. I mean, they've been trying everything they could think of, and they've really kind of backed themselves into a hole, man, because they're running out of people that they can use to control the narrative. I mean, things are getting so bad, and Kamala Harris is such a terrible freaking candidate that more and more and more people are waking up every single day, and there's really nothing at this point that the machine can do about it. I mean, MSNBC seems almost surprised that what real people care about and what actually gets talked about in the bubble are not even anywhere near the same thing anymore.
So as much as these undecided voters are unsure about the candidates, however undefined their decision-making process appears to be, you can see what issues are foremost in their minds in this critical swing county. But what is maybe just as interesting is what was not on the minds of those undecided voters. Issues that have received a ton of media attention in this state and in this election. Issues like abortion access and Donald Trump's lawlessness, covered exhaustively by the national news media. Those were not the kinds of things these undecided voters were focused on.
Does anybody have any idea about what's happening in the federal courts relating to Donald Trump's the January 6th event and what's going on there with Trump? Wait, I'm sorry to keep coming back to you, but so like you haven't talked to me about your level of interest in the criminal charges and so forth.
February 6th?
January 6th.
So I remember that day. I know he was the standing president. I'm not familiar with the charges that are being brought against him for that. I'm not following that charge or I know there's multiple court cases going on. I'm just not familiar with it.
I mean, that doesn't sound like it's going to be a factor in deciding who to vote for.
No.
Okay, so when I say January 6th, what do you think?
Oh, I just remember seeing it on the news, like all the riots and stuff. Don't really know what it was about or what happened, though.
How did it make you feel when you saw it?
I don't know. I don't really feel any way about it. People showed their emotion, I guess. Probably in the wrong way, but it happened.
This poor guy. He's like, what did I feel about it? I didn't actually feel about it at all. And the other guy she asked, is February 6th important to you and making your decisions? And he basically rolls his eyes and he says, no, it's not. And I'm pretty sure this journalist's head is basically about to explode right now. I think she's about to start separating the room based on SAT scores, and she's about to get pretty damn desperate.
Who here has been following the decisions from the Supreme Court? Raise your hands.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing only a handful. Who here knows what the Dobbs decision is? One person. Okay, that's super interesting. What about abortion? Is that an issue that you think?
I think it's a woman's right.
Yeah.
Nobody should be able to dictate that at all.
And what do you think of Trump's position on abortion?
I think he's anti, isn't he?
Yeah.
He wants to control that.
Yeah, well,
I don't think he has any business even talking about.
What about abortion? Reproductive choice. Is that something that you guys think about? Is it something that concerns you?
I think each side is a little too crazy. They need to meet in the middle.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I think they go too much one way and then too much the other way.
So you think Democrats are too open-ended on abortion and Republicans are too restrictive?
Yep.
Okay. What about you? Is it something you think about?
Same as her.
Same as her?
I think there's some middle ground there.
Something you think about?
I don't know.
You don't have to? Well,
I don't really have an opinion on it. I haven't looked into it or even thought about it, really.
it is a stunning reminder that stories the national media covers intensely, stories which certainly matter to a considerable number of Americans in general, that those stories are not necessarily the deciding factors for these elusive undecided voters, especially undecided voters who don't get their news from traditional media and who may not even be particularly interested in current events in general. For those voters, what matters most, what may ultimately determine their vote this year, are the conversations they have within their community. In this case, that means fellow members of their union, of Local 85, and especially those members who have made up their minds and who understand the stakes of the 2024 election.
Isn't that kind of funny, man? You almost feel bad for her. This poor woman has devoted her entire life, her entire being, to pushing whatever garbage narrative the machine demands. And now, in this moment, probably for the first time ever, she realizes that it's meaningless. She says, this is a stunning reminder that the stories the corporate media covers intensely, is what the way she puts it, that they just don't matter. And I think what she means, it's a reminder that no one in the real world is afraid of Donald Trump dictator or another January 6th or living in the Handmaid's Tale. The only people who buy any of that garbage, they already watch MSNBC. They already live their lives through online chat rooms. And to hear this lady tell it, these people, they just don't seem to really understand the stakes of the 2024 election. And like I said, man, the corporate media is running so far out of people to talk to that they've even turned to children. And it makes sense. I mean, if you're the corporate media and you just found out that the entire room full of union members haven't been listening to you for basically years now, you might as well go talk to some blue state kids. I mean, they have got to believe the same crazy stuff that the MSNBC and CNN type people believe. I mean, they're 10. They got to believe it.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear Donald Trump?
Pure evil.
Which one do you think is more selfish?
Like selfish? Probably her.
Kamala Harris?
Yeah, because girls are a little bit dramatic sometimes.
And do you think that people in the United States are ready to have another 4 years of Donald Trump if he's reelected?
No.
One thing that the kids talked a lot about, former President Trump's legal issues.
How much do you like Donald Trump using that scale?
Oh, probably, Donald Trump probably hates me for doing this, so,
You really don't like Donald Trump?
I mean, come on, he went to, jail, I mean...
To be clear, while Trump was booked and released from jail, he didn't spend time behind bars. 32% of all students brought up the former president's legal issues. In general, kids who said they'd support Donald Trump did not see his legal problems as a disqualifier.
Hi, how are you doing today?
This was in May before Trump's conviction.
Should he be president again still?
Yeah, we can say, for example, JFK. He cheated on his wife, but people still loved him. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, both slave owners. Being a slave owner is really bad. It's a really bad thing. But they still had 2 terms. So I think even though Trump has done bad stuff, he still deserves to run for president.
Just curious.
And now?
Which one of these 2 candidates do you think is more likely to do bad things?
Oh, convicted felon against a liar. Oh, who do I pick? I'm going to say Trump because he's a convicted felon.
Do you think it's okay for somebody who is a convicted felon to become president of the United States?
Yes.
Many children were also very aware of the first assassination attempt on former President Trump.
And which one do you think is tougher?
Donald
Trump?
Because he did survive a gunshot.
And does anything else make him tougher, do you think? Or was it mostly his reaction to that?
He's also pretty brave. I mean, if I was president and I was talking in front of a lot of people, I would be really scared.
Honestly, man, I mean, these kids are pretty surprising, right? They seem pretty aware. They seem pretty educated on the topic. But I got to say, man, I'm not real sure that these are the kind of things that kids should actually be real aware of at all. And I don't know, the thing that jumps out to me, it seems like the kids that have what you would assume conservative parents, these are pretty reasonable kids, pretty well spoken, pretty down to earth, pretty real, right? Pretty normal, I guess, for lack of a better term. While the kids that you got to assume have liberal parents, they don't seem all that thoughtful. I mean, they seem to have like some sort of like transference of hate, which honestly, man, I mean, that's just another glaring difference between the two sides. The people that say that you're in a cult and that you're a bigot or whatever garbage they say, those people are subjecting their kids to this kind of garbage.
Overall, the biggest finding, the children in the study were polarized, with what researchers called more extreme responses from the blue state kids than the red state kids.
Donald Trump, he did bad things. He's like Hitler.
He only wanted to be president so that he can just control everybody.
Trump is supporting January 6th now. I remember that January 6th was a bunch of Republicans believing Trump. I feel like they thought Trump was a god. People got arrested. I think one officer died afterwards. That was a big day.
The study found that these Democrat-leaning kids were about 9 times more likely to express negative emotions about Donald Trump than Republican-leaning kids were about Kamala Harris. Why might that be? Psychologist Ashley Landrum has some ideas.
So Donald Trump is a very polarizing figure, and it's very possible that the kids are reacting to their parents reacting to Donald Trump being a very different kind of political figure than what we've seen before. So do the red state kids hold as strong of attitudes? Well, not when we're talking about Kamala Harris. In part, that could be because they don't know that much about her.
Blue state kids are extreme and hold negative views. They're 10 years old and they hold negative freaking views on national TV. And Anderson Cooper asked, why might that be? It's because Democrats are freaking psychos, Anderson, and the machine made you crazy. You've subjected their parents and made their parents crazy, and now their parents are emotionally and mentally abusing these kids with all Democrat craziness. Michael Savage, I don't know if you guys listen to Michael Savage, but he's been saying for years that liberalism is a mental disorder. And I think we have some real proof of that here, man. And the funny thing is, the researcher seems to think that it's not any fault of these kids' parents. It's that Donald Trump is just so different. It's okay to teach your kids to hate someone that's just so different.
Landrum was also curious about how kids saw their peers in the political divide.
So, do you think that the kids that live in those two houses would be friends with each other?
They can.
They can?
There's no law breaking that.
It doesn't matter if you are different by skin color, or it doesn't matter if you are different by people. You can still be friends.
The study found that Republican-leaning kids were more open to visiting a Democrat-supporting household. The Democrat-leaning kids were about 5 times more likely to say they would not want to go to a pro-Trump house.
Would they be okay with you going over to somebody's house who is really supportive of President Trump?
No.
No? And why not?
Because they know that he's not like black people, so they will not be happy to see me.
Would your family let you go over to somebody's house who's really supportive of Donald Trump?
No.
No, they wouldn't?
No.
And why not?
Because my mom and dad don't like Donald Trump at all. Not a single bit.
Would you be okay going over to somebody's house whose family really likes Kamala Harris?
I think it'd be fine. It's just about the personality of the people.
Would your family be okay if you went over to somebody's house who really liked Donald Trump?
If I want to be real over here, so if I just went over there I imagine be a good old argument or a fight, maybe like a food fight or something.
Obviously, it's pretty interesting stuff, right? I mean, it's really, really depressing when you think about it. I do not think that this bodes well for our future as a society, but it definitely shows the difference between the two sides. I mean, they could not be any more different. I mean, we're about as different as you possibly can be. And here's, I don't think interviewing kids and using them to push a narrative is the best idea. So luckily they went back to the union members. They gave them one more shot. And I want to show you this exchange. It's probably my favorite exchange of the whole video. I mean, she thinks these people are stupid, but it's clear. I mean, these people have a better handle on these things than any of these corporate media shills ever will.
Who here is voting for the first time? Is this anybody's first election? You guys back here. What's sort of made its way across your radar? Any stories or issues or positions?
Mostly just immigration.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What about immigration have you been paying attention to?
There are thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants coming across the border every day, and the vice president has done minimal work to fix that, based on what I've seen. So I'd like that to change.
Do you feel like Donald Trump's going to be better on that issue?
Based on what we've seen on his first 4 years, I do believe that he will be better on that. Yeah.
Are you leaning towards Trump right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything that Vice President Harris could do at this point to change your mind?
Not particularly, no. Unless she changes her stance completely on fixing the border. That's no.
This is your first election?
Yeah, it is.
And have you been paying attention to stuff?
Some things, but as of right now, it's kind of hard to know what is true and what's false as far as both parties are concerned.
Like, what issue matters to you the most?
Definitely are issues concerning democracy and what was discussed before the border.
What about immigration concerns you?
The influx in illegal immigration is affecting a lot more than just the people, but our economy. We're losing jobs for the people who live here. People are, running out of work, and in return, it's making life as a whole for the country harder.
Do you feel like one candidate or the other is better on that issue?
Like I said, I don't know what to believe from what I'm seeing from multiple news outlets and what comes across my news feed and whatnot. So I'm not super opinionated either way.
How do you think you're going to ultimately decide? I know we talked to one gentleman who said, I think I'm just going to kind of go with my heart on election day.
As the election comes a little closer, I think the more I see and the more truth that ends up coming out, I'll be able to make a more educated.
This goes back to the whole silent majority theory in 2016, right? And maybe I'm just being optimistic, but to me, when people tell the propagandists that, they just don't know, or they'll vote with their heart when it happens, or like this guy saying, I'm sure I'll have more information by then. These people have their minds made up. They are voting for Donald Trump, but there's zero freaking chance that they're going to put themselves out there and say it on MSNBC of all places, right? We've watched for 10 years now that these people will demean and degrade and destroy anyone and anything that doesn't perfectly comport with their worldview. I mean, no one is safe. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is off limits or out of bounds to these people. And if you have any doubt in that, just look at the fine ladies on The View reacting to Melania Trump saying her piece about the fact that leftist wackos are trying to assassinate her husband.
So here's some news for you. The former First Lady has been noticeably absent on her husband's campaign trail, but she just made a stop on Fox News to promote a new memoir. Apparently, she's answered personal and political questions. Take a look.
American people need to decide what they really want. Maybe some, strong tweets, but everything else great for this country.
So what do you love most about your husband?
His being, his humor, his personality, his kindness. He's very special. His positivity, his energy, it's unbelievable. So we have a beautiful relationship.
What do the two of you like to do for fun if you're not working?
To have dinner, sometimes quiet dinner or dinner with friends and listen to the music, all kind of different musics.
I hear he likes to be the DJ.
He likes to be the DJ, and it's very fun night when he does that.
That thing needs a laugh track. It needs a laugh track.
Yeah. So that's what they're reacting to. I mean, you can hear the ghouls in the audience laughing at her for whatever reason. And I'm not going to play the entire round robin of witches taking their shots. They're all pretty bad, but this by Joy Behar, this is exactly who these people really are.
Yesterday was Barbara Walters' birthday, I believe.
Yes.
And when I was watching this, I thought if Barbara were here today, she would have said to her, Melania, your husband had sex with a porn star while you were home with a baby. How do you feel about that? That's what Barbara would have done. This woman, nothing. This was the most softball thing, the most softball hostage video I've ever seen.
Well, that's probably why they were able to...
Just think about that, man. Look at how angry Joy Behar really is. And just listen to her point, man. She's upset that a former first lady got a softball interview. These people think that a president's wife, a former president's wife, who earlier in the tape, they impugn her for being an immigrant. They make fun of her for changing the Christmas decorations. They, of course, make fun of her for being married to Donald Trump and a ton of other ridiculous, unimportant crap that I didn't show you that they were talking about. But that's the gist. They think that Melania Trump should be held to a higher standard than Kamala Harris, who they've never, ever once complained about getting softball interviews. I mean, these exact women, just a couple days before this, they had Joe Biden on, and they handled him with such kid gloves. I mean, they gave him such a softball Joe Biden love fest that North Korean propagandists were probably taking notes. And here they are losing their minds that a former first lady didn't get asked about porn stars. I mean, these people are freaking sick. These people are evil. And these people, they're lying to you. I mean, just remember, man, it wasn't always this way. You know, I'm going to show you Donald Trump in 2011 saying the exact same stuff he's always been saying. The audience loves him, and the ladies on The View, they love him even more.
Me won't leave you alone. Do you think that the country, that would bother anybody?
I think the country is doing so badly, they want somebody that's going to help it. I think the country has never been in a position like it is right now. It's being ripped off by every nation, every intelligent nation in the world, whether it's China. They're taking our jobs, they're making all our product, and then they loan us back the money, we pay them interest.
That is
whether
crazy.
It's OPEC, which is, I mean, they're having a field day right now. How about the Arab League? They say, we want you to go in and attack Libya. These are the wealthiest countries in the world. Why aren't they paying us?
Okay,
Why
so
aren't
then they changed their minds also. But you didn't answer my question.
No, I did answer your question. I really think
it won't
people...
matter?
I think maybe 10 years ago it would have mattered, 5 years ago. The fact is, I think people want somebody now that's going to protect them and protect this country, because we're not going to be a great country for long if we keep going the way we're going right now.
If you...
When we have... Barbara... When we have France leading the charge, okay? France, this is our new leader. By the way, they led for about 2 hours. After that, nobody's seen them. I don't know if you know that or not.
Geographically, so they should.
Let me just ask a follow-up question to that.
Their lead is the point.
Let me just ask a follow-up question to that. Let's say you run. You've given a lot of thought for this. Who would you like as your vice president? Possibly Sarah Palin?
Well, I think it's far too early even to discuss that. I'm going to make a decision sometime prior to June. I'm thinking about it very strongly. I think I'd do a really good job. I think I'd protect this country like it's not being protected. You know, it's funny. So many of the things I say, now politicians are saying, hey, that's right. Why aren't they paying us? If you look at North Korea, South Korea, we're protecting South Korea. They're making a fortune. Let's call it hundreds of billions of dollars of profit on us. We have 25,000 soldiers over there protecting them. They don't pay us. Why aren't they paying us?
You'd be treating this like a business.
No. A business with heart.
Okay.
Believe me, there's a lot of heart. It's a business, but it's also a business with heart. We will destroy this country. It won't be a war. If the economics of this country keep going the way they're going, we're not going to have a country.
You're kind of a social liberal, Donald. You know, you're a social liberal. Could you actually get the base to vote for you in the primary?
Well, every poll is saying that I'm the one that does the best. They're doing polls.
They actually have you a higher approval rating than Mitt Romney, Tim Pawlenty, John Boehner. But out of those, if you're thinking of competition within the party to get the nomination, really your biggest competition will be, should you get the nomination, President Obama.
Well, I was the only one. A CNN poll just came out, as you probably saw, and I was the only one that was essentially tied with Obama. Everyone was 10 and 15 points down. So, we'll see. I haven't made a decision. I'll be making a decision, and I will do a good job if I decide yes and if I win.
Okay.
I just was wondering, because you were talking about how all these countries have been doing this. You would admit that this has sort of been business as usual for the last 30 years. I mean,
yes.
we have. So this is not because it's nothing new. This has been going on. So you're saying you would come in and stop that practice?
But it's never been as bad as it is now. We've never had $1.6 trillion in deficits.
It was as bad when George Bush left office. So he was the one who left this.
You're right.
Who left this.
Excuse me. I'm a Republican. George Bush, he gave us Obama. I'm not a big fan of George Bush. I'm not a fan of Obamacare.
Let's not talk about who gave who,
I know,
baby,
Whoopi.
because
I don't think I'm going to get Whoopi's vote.
If you did, let me just ask, if you did beat...
And she likes me. She even put me in a movie.
I was just going to say.
She put me in the movies, right? A long time ago. And how much did I charge? Nothing.
Like they say in the
It was a freebie.
If you did beat Obama, though, it's just would you say you're...
Same guy, same exact message, and same evil witches, right? So what's changed? I mean, the only thing that has changed is the focus of the machine and these state-approved propagandists all over American media. I mean, they will do literally whatever the machine demands, and it's insane. That's all I got, guys. If you like this video, watch this next one that pops up and share this video, man. We have got to start spreading the word while we still have time to do it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.